Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to cover Week 1, Lesson 2 of our English for Academic Purposes course. And today, we're going to talk about taking effective notes, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the structure of an academic essay. So let's get started. I want to start by reviewing the 4 key terms that we talked about in our last class. What is the text mostly about? What is this called? It's the topic. And the what is the reason for writing the text, the purpose or the author's purpose. And the blank is the most important thing the author wants to communicate. 2 words, main idea. And what gives us more information about the main idea? The supporting details. So we're going to talk first about taking notes. So taking notes is an important skill, whether you're listening to lectures, you're reading a book, or you're reading an academic article, you want to be able to take notes effectively. So when you're taking notes, make sure you look for the main idea or the most important idea that the author is trying to communicate, and look for key details like dates, statistics, startling facts, things that clearly support the main idea. So COVID-19 is something that's clearly changed the world. And one huge way that's changed the world is that it has increased the availability and the prevalence of remote work and also remote education. So we're going to look at 2 different texts that talk about remote work and its impact on our lives. And when we look at these 2 different texts, we want to take effective notes on them. So we're going to use a table just like this to help us take notes. So when you're taking notes, you want to write down the title of the source. That's the title of the book or the article or the lecture, the author who wrote it or the professor who's giving the lecture, the date, and what it is. Are you reading a book? Are you reading an article? Are you reading an essay? Are you listening to a lecture? Okay, and in this big space right here, you're going to put the main idea. What do you think goes here on these lines? That's right. Your supporting details go there. So let's take a look at this essay here. And I want to give you guys a moment to read through this here. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and you can read that. All right, so let's go ahead and come back here. What do you think the topic and the purpose of this text is? So I think the topic is clearly remote work. And I think the author's purpose is probably to persuade us. He's talking about how remote working arrangements have been beneficial for employees and companies. So I think this is a persuasive text. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a closer look at this text. All right, so here I want to put the main idea. And here I'm going to put my supporting details. Okay, so the title of the text is Remote Work is Here to Stay. It's written by me, Jay Riley. And this is the date, September 3rd, 2023, and it's an article. And the main idea is that remote work benefits both companies and employees. How do I know that's the main idea? Well, I'm going to go back to my essay. If I look here, that's my thesis statement. Remember, the thesis statement is the most important thing that the author is trying to communicate. So that's the main idea of this text. I'm going to look for key details. Where do I find those ideas that are in support of my thesis statement? I find them in the body paragraphs. I find them in the topic sentences. The topic sentences tell me what those paragraphs are mostly about. So I see flexibility, commuting, and productivity. So I'm going to go back to my table. I've got my main idea. And there, I've got those 3 big ideas that are in support of my thesis statement. But I've got some other information here. Where do you think this information comes from? These words here that aren't bolded? Well, let's go back. Those are going to be the supporting details in each paragraph. So if I come back here, I can see that those supporting details are found within each paragraph. They don't have to work a rigid 9-to-5 schedule. They can keep up with their personal routines. Those are all different supporting details that help me to better understand how remote work offers flexibility. So if I go back, there is my own, there's my big idea, my big ideas in support of that main idea, and more supporting details. So let's take a look at this text, the drawback of remote work, exploring its disadvantages. So I think we're still talking about remote work. I think this is still going to be a persuasive text, but I think this author is going to take the other position and talk about how remote work is a bad thing. So pause your video and take a moment and read through this. All right, welcome back. So let's go over this here and let's see how we can take effective notes here. So again, I've got the key information at the top of my table, and I put my main idea, which is that employees and companies need to address disadvantages of remote work or they need to end it. And then I've got my 3 topic sentences in bold, which are my big ideas in support of that main idea. And I've got further supporting details here. Okay, and I can see my first big disadvantage is that employees feel isolated. And the author says that there's a lack of connection in a virtual setting and reduced communication. So if I go back to my essay, I can see that employees feel isolated. Okay, and I can see that there is a lack of casual conversations, collaborative sessions. Okay, it hinders communication. All of those things, all of those supporting details are found within that body paragraph. And I did a good job adding them to my table. Okay, so let's talk about different ways that we can make meaning from context, because very often when we're coming across texts and we've got to read them and take notes, we come across words that we don't understand. So one thing that we can do is we can use parts of the word. We can break the word up into chunks. So here I've got 2 prefixes, dis, en. Dis means the opposite of, en means in or within. And franchise means granting rights. So disenfranchise is the opposite of granting rights to people. We can also look for a definition or a synonym within the context. Oncology's importance as a field of study has grown as more and more doctors take steps to fight cancer. So I might not know what oncology means, but if I realize that it's a field of study and that doctors are taking steps to fight cancer, that helps me to know that oncology is a field of study that studies cancer. Despots or dictators need to be removed from power. So here I've got a synonym, the word dictator. We can use appositives or relative clauses to help us understand the meaning of a word that is unfamiliar to us or a phrase that's unfamiliar to us. So here, quantitative monetary easing is a term that we come across very often in economics, which essentially just means printing money. But if you're not familiar with the field of economics, that word might, or that phrase might be a little difficult to understand. But here, the author says quantitative monetary easing, or the act of printing money, can lead to runaway inflation. So looking at that appositive here, within quotes, I can see that the author is talking about printing money when he talks about quantitative monetary easing. We can use antonyms or words that mean the opposite. Misogyny, as opposed to treating women equally, is a social ill that must be corrected. When I see as opposed to, I know that we're talking about the opposite relationship. So I know that misogyny is the opposite of treating women equally. And we can use examples, or we can look for examples. His colleagues could tell from Joe's words about everything having a positive impact that he was an optimist. I might not know what the word optimist means, but I know that Joe always talks about everything having a positive impact. So I know that an optimist is someone who sees the world in a positive way. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our academic essay structure. So how do you think academic writing is different from other types of writing? Perhaps writing a friendly letter, writing an email, or perhaps creative writing, writing a drama, some sort of fictional writing. Argument is the thing that separates academic writing from those other genres of writing. Academic writing requires that you take a stand. You have one main argument, your thesis, and you're going to support that argument with reasons, details, and examples. And we saw that when we looked at those essays when we practiced taking good notes. So remember, if you're coming from a culture where English is not your first language, remember that sociology and language are intertwined. Culture and language are intertwined, right? So in certain cultures, it's important to be very indirect in your writing. Whereas in English academic writing, it's important to be more direct. You want to state your thesis immediately at the beginning of your essay. It should be the last sentence of your introductory paragraph. Bear in mind that no one way is better than the other. They're just different. So be aware of who your audience is. When you know who you're writing for, you'll best be able to structure your academic essay. So really quickly, what's the difference between an opinion essay and a persuasive or argumentative essay? Opinion essays are about me, and persuasive essays are about you. Okay, so when I'm writing an opinion essay, I want you to believe what I'm saying. When you're writing a persuasive essay, you're asking the audience to take action on something. Okay, so let's take a look at the different parts of this essay right here. Okay, so I've got 3 big parts and 5 paragraphs. I've got an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And that body is broken down into 3 separate parts: body paragraph 1, 2, and 3. So let's think about and let's take a look at what should be included in each aspect of the body, the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. In our introduction, we want to hook the reader or engage them. We want to do that with our first sentence. We want the reader to want to keep reading our essay. If the reader reads the first sentence and it's really boring, we say, my essay is about remote work. They're going to go, oh, yawn. No one's going to want to read that, right? If we say remote work has revolutionized how people are employed today, yeah, sure, that's much more interesting and makes me want to keep reading. The roadmap or the thesis map, just like a roadmap tells us where we're going, remember the thesis map tells your reader what you're going to talk about in your essay. It should have 3 big points. And remember, your thesis is your big idea. It's what you're arguing. Okay, so let's take a look here. How is this introduction? Okay, well, I see I've got a really good thesis map right here. Flexibility, reduce stress from commuting, and overall productivity. Okay, I've also got a really good thesis statement. Remote working arrangements are highly beneficial for employees and companies. Let's take a look at that hook, that first sentence. Okay, I need to engage the reader. He says remote work, the practice of working from locations outside the traditional office, has rapidly become a transformative aspect of modern employment. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. You know, we could even make that better. I could say something like remote work has changed the way we live and work. That would be a much stronger statement. But overall, I think this is a pretty good introduction. Remember your body paragraphs. Each body paragraph represents one reason in support of your thesis. Think of your topic sentence kind of like your paragraph thesis. It tells what you're going to be arguing in your paragraph. It should be a big idea in support of your thesis. Your supporting details are going to tell more about your topic sentence, and you want to include transitions. You want to let the reader know where you're going. And we're going to look more at transitions at the end of our lesson. So let's take a look here. What reason does each paragraph represent? Well, the first one is remote work offers flexibility. The second is you get a rest from commuting. And the third is you're going to be more productive. Okay, all three of those reasons support our thesis. And the author does a nice job of including supporting details. Okay, you have freedom to set your own work hours. Okay, align work with your personal routines, and we give examples of that. And increase job satisfaction and overall well-being. So if we go through each body paragraph, we can find examples of supporting details that support each topic sentence. And finally, our conclusion. In our conclusion, we want to signpost or signal to our reader that we're coming to the end of our essay. Then we want to summarize those three big ideas, those three topic sentences, and we want to restate our thesis. Finally, if you can, try to leave your reader with a strong concluding thought. Okay, so that's not absolutely imperative, but it's a good idea if you can. So here, the author signals the end of the essay by saying, in conclusion. Then the author summarizes the big arguments, flexibility, reduce stress from commuting, and boosts in productivity. And the author restates the thesis. It's beneficial to employees and businesses. And finally, the author leaves us with a strong concluding thought here. Okay, so I think this is a very, very well-written conclusion. All right, so when you're brainstorming your academic essay, okay, think about what your opinion is. What's your thesis or your main idea? Put that here. Okay, this is where your thesis statement's going to go. Reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3, each of these is going to be your one body paragraph. So this is going to be the topic sentence, and that's the topic sentence for body paragraph 1. The topic sentence for body paragraph 2, and the topic sentence for body paragraph 3. Okay, now here it says evidence 1, 2, and 3. These are going to be your supporting details. Okay, those are going to be your supporting details for each body paragraph. Okay, so if you do this, you should have most of your essay completed by working with this graphic organizer. Okay, and one thing you can do is you can work together with a classmate or with a family member and have them look at your essay and give you feedback. Are there 3 reasons that support your thesis? Do they directly relate to your thesis? Do your supporting details give more information about each reason? So think about all those things as you go through and review your essay. So before we go, let's talk quickly about transitions. Okay, transitions are there to help make our writing more cohesive. They bind our writing together. We can have transitions between sentences, between paragraphs, and if you're writing a research report, between sections of your report. Okay, so here we've got transition words for chronological order, transition words to state examples, transition words to give additional ideas, and transition words to reinforce ideas. So let's take a look here at this first essay. I want to look here at these first 4 paragraphs. I start everyone with remote work, remote work, remote work, a little bit boring. So I could say first or first of all, and then I could say further, and then I could say finally or in addition. Okay, all of those things, all of those words help my reader to know that I'm moving, starting with one reason, then I'm moving to my next one, then I'm going to my third and final reason. So it helps to give some continuity to your writing. Okay, and we can do the same thing with this example here. All right, you did a great job. So please remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the video, and I'll see you in our next EAP video.